Previously on Inside Scoop.
Kim gets the control what the narrative is.
She hadn't
for all of them.
on it.
For all of them. I mean, for everything. Kim's opinion of how things should be spun have been what they've been living for, let's just call it a decade, right? For the last 10 years.
It's what the show has been living, too. Because we know all the things that she's been hiding.
Yeah, because Kim's directing it this way. And I think, so for me, Kim's not in control anymore. And I really think this is the issue.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Coupled with Chaos.
Inside Scoop 303. You hear squeaking in the background. That's because the new mystery bark box came. And our foster dog is liking the 3 tennis balls. Yeah, that seems to be very popular right now. So she has a new toy.
For life.
And so I don't know how to edit out the high-pitched squeaking if you hear it in the background. But she is really having a good time.
And that's good. She deserves it.
And with 5 dogs in the house, it makes it really hard to... there's no way to get away from them.
The background noise.
Yeah, so there's that. We are going to cover this week Season 3, Episode 3 of The Last Resort, Diaries, Season 8, what is that, Episode 6, Plathville, Season 8, Episode 12, Baylen, Season 3, Episode 5, and we'll talk about a couple of Inside Scoop stories. Let's start with, are you sure this was the, feels like it was the end of Plathville? I didn't see that it was the end, but it felt like the end of the season.
It seemed like it. It did seem like it.
Seemed like
There's no lingering storylines, really, and they kind of like wrapped everybody up. So,
and there was kind of a Kim speech at the end, hoping that, whatever, Kim's setting herself up for whatever. This was the start of, really, I guess, the end of them getting together and having a family meeting around the I guess the core issue. It was 2 things, really. It was the anniversary.
Well, 3.
Yeah, it was supposed to be, what they sold it as was an anniversary celebration, right?
Yeah, but they didn't tell them that it was a party. That was a surprise party. They were just kind of having them over.
Was that just to make the other issues kind of go away?
No, I don't know. I think Kim is trying to portray herself as something different because of the unspoken stuff that happened between seasons. So, that's what I think. And
so last week, what they have is, and if you're not a frequent watcher of Plathville, this a big storyline of this season was the lack of communication that they had in talking about the passing of one of their children at 18 years ago. 17-month-old Joshua had passed away from
terrible
accident at the house. And so where Kim was the one who was driving a vehicle and tragically had a thing. And so as it would have to be difficult with all families is they have probably just not dealt with it and not spoken about it.
I felt tragically empathetic for Kim when she started talking to the therapist about the gruesomeness of what she saw that day. Because I hadn't really thought about what the aftermath must have been. And to think that all the kids were present for that, as traumatic as that vision is in Kim's mind, can you imagine what it did to the children?
Yeah, and I think that has to be hard. It has to be hard for even the parents, because not only do you have this traumatic thing that you have to deal with for yourself, but at the same time, you've got to be there for your kids. And
and she said that she wasn't. She said that for a year, all she could do was get out of bed.
And you can understand that.
Yes.
But ultimately,
100%.
It comes to the point where the children haven't dealt with this either.
Right.
And so I think Lydia's having...
And somebody might say, well, Barry should have stepped in and been there for the kids. But, I mean, what a shock for him. He also had to process that his wife was responsible for it. I mean, I can imagine that was difficult for them to navigate as a couple as well.
In at least publicly, they're saying that was not an issue for them, and Barry was supportive. But there still has to be a lot of work.
still, for that to be going on in his mind and
that
have
would
to
be.
process and work through that would be so difficult.
So,
And I'm sure that, neither one of them was in any condition to be there for the kids to the level they should have. I would have expected that in a traumatic situation like this that they witnessed and saw the aftermath of, that they all should have probably had counseling immediately.
well, their, just their general upbringing and religious background. It's just a matter of what the church would have been there for them. Or I don't just remember what their family situation is with siblings. And I know that a set of grandparents are up in Minnesota, but I don't know too much about the rest of them to know that how family support that they had. So it really feels like with everything that this family does, they, at this point, then they had done it on their own. And it's not, we find out right now, Lydia is trying to process this, and she's doing it relatively publicly, and this is causing issues for the family because
She's talking about them and they're dealing with it.
Yeah, we talked about it last week that nobody asked really Lydia as a grown person whether or not she wanted to participate in the show. As an adult, as a child, I'm not sure they had too much of a choice. And so they've created this public thing, and so a lot of their things are going to turn out to be public. And the issue here is, I think this was kind of the thing that Lydia and Zach thought they were coming to talk about. But in fact, before that happened, they had a family sit down about Zach and Lydia inserting themselves into, I think, everyone's lifestyles.
And really, it's Zach.
It does feel like it's him.
They may have discussed it amongst themselves, but they definitely let Zach be the mouthpiece in going to the family members. And I think that was where they made the biggest mistake. Because while as a couple they may feel that he represents the two of them, the family does not.
Yeah. Well, we had Jody got with us kind of before you had seen it, and I think before I had seen it, just about him speaking for the family. And I think you probably saw a clip at the end where the producer's asking something, and Lydia starts to talk, and Zach comes in and say, "No, let me answer." And it wasn't, they cut this thing however they want. Lydia can answer, and then Zach could answer after. And so I think the issue here, for me, and I can see where you come from, is that, Zach interrupts Lydia and says, "No, let me answer this." It's like, I could see where it felt uncomfortable. It's like, is Lydia, can she speak for herself? And so the family really gets on Zach and say...
Well, they were asking him a question at that moment. And she began to answer what she thought. And then he interjected, "Let me answer."
Yeah.
It was a question that was directed to him.
It just felt, I felt uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable.
I think he could have put a hand on her leg. I think there's many ways that you can do that.
And she had paused, so he could have just given his answer at that point.
I know in a situation like that, I believe you would have, even if you wouldn't have said anything, I think you would have probably felt a little taken aback in that situation if, "Let me answer this."
Yeah.
It just felt uncomfortable. And so I think there's a general feeling about Zach that's different. And I wonder if production and producers are maybe also feel a little uncomfortable by him.
I wonder, and you always say this about 90 Day, I wonder what the perspective of the producers is behind the scenes. What it's actually like for them to observe and deal with these people and interact with them off camera. He does seem like a commanding kind of person. And Lydia is so submissive that she probably doesn't see it so much or feel it the way that viewers see it and feel it when he does things like that. And it is a little bit cringeworthy because that's also how like abusive relationships begin, is that exerting control and not giving a voice to the partner. But it can also just be gender roles with a religious base where, people just decide that they accept certain assignments of authority in the relationship, and not everybody agrees with it. So it could be just that, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, we both get, you get such a small glimpse into what happens here. But I think if you ask Lydia, she would think that Zach empowers her and gives her a voice. But maybe it's not like a voice. You see the voice at this point Mariah has from her independence.
Right. I see the voice being maybe he listens to her feelings. I believe he does, because the things that he's irritated about are that she has had his ear on how the family's made her feel about certain things.
And he's going out.
And being her mouthpiece. He's like defending his wife, I guess.
Or at least that's how he feels.
Right.
He does
and so
feel
I see that. I see that. And that is, I think, the nature of their relationship, that they have these given roles that they feel are appropriate for them. And so I think it's more along those lines, but I can also see where others would view it as cringeworthy.
And I see here where, and Kim and Barry, I think they say it here, although not in the group. Kim does, Barry doesn't, that these are our children, right? The younger ones, and they're ours to make these decisions about, not
I agree
yours.
with that 100%.
The
and
issue,
I know you do too, because we've even had issues in our own family amongst siblings where one gets grown and decides they're going to interject how we need to deal with younger ones.
So,
and I know that irritates the crap out of you.
But here though is Ethan, who at the end of all this is telling Zach how he should be with his siblings. And so for me, I didn't hear anybody step up and let Zach also be reminded, or Ethan, to be reminded that Kim and Barry are the parents here. And so I think Ethan should not be at a place here where he's able to then tell Zach not to talk to the siblings
I
like
got
that.
the impression that this is a conversation that Ethan has had at least with Kim, if not also with Barry. I think he's more comfortable being outspoken on the topic than maybe they are.
He's outspoken about a lot of things.
Right, but I thought that he did a good job, though, of communicating and staying even-keeled and cool-headed compared to himself in the past. I think that he showed some growth there.
I mean, it's their family. I just don't see where he has the place to do that. He's actually doing the same thing that they're telling Zach not to do.
But he's part of the family.
What does that matter?
He's a sibling.
I get it.
He's the oldest.
Can Zach... Well, does Zach
he
have to
can more
listen?
Express concern about his sibling than Zach could.
Kim and Barry are right there around that same circle. So they could express that.
I wish that Barry had spoken at all during this meeting. He did not. He only said his piece in the side interview. So I think he's trying to stay kind of neutral to be on everybody's good side. But I think he, as the head of the family, should have had some words to say, because I realize that he prefers to deal one-on-one with each of the kids. I've observed that. And he does, in fact, go to Ethan after. And I guess there is another episode, because there was a preview of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a preview of him talking with Zach about this later, about the unwanted advice. And he kind of joked about it to lighten the mood a little bit.
This is the 12th episode. This is a lot of episodes of this.
Yeah, so he did at least have some conversation about it one-on-one, but I do kind of wish he'd participated at all in the group conversation, because like you said, they are the parents, and it really should have come from them rather than leaving Ethan to do the talking.
Yeah, because it's just not his place either. And so here we are, because we've established, very well over time, that Ethan's just probably not the great barometer of things. We're going to be
And we do
peeling out and throwing tables and spinning out with the car. I'm just not sure he's the one.
Yeah, I think he is working on it, though. I see some improvement. He's got a lot to work through.
Sure. We'll talk when we come back. We'll talk Baylen and all the other stuff. Well, I'm not going through the list again, but we'll talk about all that and more when we return.
Thank you for listening.
You can listen to the rest of this episode
by subscribing to our Coupled with Chaos channel on Apple,
by subscribing to our Patreon,
or by subscribing to our Supercast
for $3.99 a month,
where you can hear us talk about reality shows,
real life, and more on our podcasts,
covering shows airing on TLC, A&E, Bravo, and the WE Network.
Just follow the instructions in the show notes.
Tell your friends about this podcast.
And rate and review us on your favorite podcast player.
Follow us at Coupled with Chaos on all the socials.
Or contact us directly by email at coupledwithchaos@gmail.com.